Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Zwift Live broadcast of the OG Racing Series. This is week number 2, and all week long from June 12th to June 18th, Zwift is putting on the Z Racing Series of OG Racing for the second round. And this week, it's all about featuring Team Fearless and what they have done for women's racing out on the London Classic course this week. Dave, and in pre-production, we were talking a lot about catching up on the history of who Team Fearless is and women's racing out on Zwift. And really, the reason why this is the focus this week in our second week of Z Racing for the OG series throughout the entirety of the month of June. It's kind of cool looking toward what's happening in July and all that's come out with women's racing with the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. I mean, Fearless, though, this is kind of the start. We're looking back 5 years into the past. The first go, 2018 at the Fearless Annual Women's Team Championship. Back then, it wasn't called the Annual Women's Team Championship, but it was out on the London Classic course, and Team Fearless hit the ground running for women's racing, really.
Yeah, absolutely, Nathan. I think really when you look at the history of Zwift on the timeline, that women's racing has been a cornerstone. It really has. And Fearless, it's funny you say that, Nathan, because I guess in your first year, you can't really call it the annual. You don't know what kind of a run you're going to have. But they've continued all the way, as you'll see in our little run into the racing here today, that this has been every year. They've bounced around to a bunch of different courses, but it's remained a really strong core group that has been welcoming and inclusive and exactly what Zwift is about. So, yeah, that's a great place to start, Nathan. Women's racing is a huge part of the success story of Zwift. And without teams like Fearless taking the lead, we wouldn't be where we are now.
100%. Real quickly, a quick look back at the broadcast that we have done. This is 5 years ago. Zwift Community Live had launched at this point, and as you can see, our old school start screens, and it was Nathan a solo on the broadcast with the backgrounds here, as you can see. We did have some great branding at that time, though. We did have some cool overlays, etc., that you can go back and take a look. These are, if you just search Fearless on the channel, though, you can go back and take a look at these. But as you can see, lots of old school names. We were actually taking a look at some of the results a moment ago, and it was really interesting. Dave had said, I don't remember any of those names. And I was like, I remember some of these names. Like, whoa, this is a flash in the past here. Like going back here and looking, some of these names actually took place in some of the first ever in real life esports competitions. So really interesting to see the first winners out here. Now, Dave, the boys and girls are getting out on course here, but it is like a pretty good little roll-in. So we do have a moment or two before we have to actually head down into the classic laps here. They will be doing 3 laps of the classic course out there today. It is going to be fast. It is going to be furious. But let's take a quick look. 3 years then back, we're looking back, 2019 was the next one that we actually broadcast. Sand and Sequoias.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting when you look, Nathan, as the names have changed. We're still pre-COVID at this point, so the huge boom hasn't really hit, but racing is picking up. That's for sure. And a tip of cap to you as well. You definitely started on a good forward stride. As you could see that the Zwift Community Live, it's changed and modernized, but it's not embarrassing at all to look back. Sometimes when you can see yourself from high school, you're like, oh, wow, I don't know what I was thinking. But you don't have to do that here, Nathan. So pat on the back to you for sure. But yeah, the racing remained really, really competitive. But I feel like we kicked it up more than just one notch at this point, going from each year. We're not making small jumps. It's almost logarithmic, the increases that you're seeing as far as participation, the quality of the competition. And honestly, that really is the thing. The course is one part of this, but it's the depth of the field that really started to grow in 2019.
100%. And it is the multi-category 2019 as we do jump in really quickly here just to take a look back at some of the broadcasts that we did have. This is when we started to bring in some of the social media integration. So as you can see here, Scotty Weiss and his wife, Katrina Weiss, they were a big part of this as Katrina was having a really solid ride. I remember representing Team Riva looking strong. So cool to see some of the integrations we started to have in the broadcast as well. I don't know if we have results here for this one and how it ended up playing out if we do look back. But I do want to mention that WTRL is a part of this story as well, which is really interesting because they have a Team Fearless page that they have helped them with some of their scoring and results actually in the past. And so in the 5th annual one, though, we actually started in with some interviews, and we were lucky enough to have Kate Bates on board with us actually for the broadcast of what they called the 5th annual team championship for Team Fearless, actually, and that was 2021. So the boom had happened at that point with the indoor exodus from outside in 2020.
Yeah, Kate was a former world champion on the velodrome back in 2005. We got to work with her a lot. She's a wonderful person and brought a lot to it. She's still continuing on strong. She has a great podcast called The Wheelhouse that I would highly recommend. But Kate, super fun person, brought a lot to the racing. And at this point now, it's full gas. I mean, we're looking at fields, for events like this, over 100 riders are taking the start. It's all inclusive as well, all of the different categories. That's really what's been great. I saw the Vixen team up there. They deserve a tip of the cap as well. Another one of the and ODZ. These are teams that really
ODZ,
got the ball rolling.
When it comes to women's racing as well, I would definitely say ODZ is a big part of that as well. There's some big names: Team Vixen, Team Fearless, ODZ. There's others there. I feel so bad. I mean, if I'm gonna miss somebody out there, but and then though there's these more familiar, do we say modern, up to date, or more recent additions to that we start seeing Galaxy. I mean, in 2021, we see Valkyrie, we see I Race Like a Girl, Sisu. We see these names that are more toward the top end of esports now.
Yeah, the Socks for Watts. Remember their run. That's another good example of that, though. We started seeing at this point, Nathan, is when you really see the success when the teams then started having offshoot teams, just like Mork and Mindy came out of Happy Days. Well, so many of these teams, what happens is you'd get 100 people, and then they'd realize, well, you know what? This group of women are slightly more competitive. This group likes to do this. So we're going to form our own team. And that's where we really started cooking with gas. I mean, you're starting to talk about, and a big shout out to Martin and WTRL as well. That's the World Tactical Racing League. And they were one of the game changers that took us into, I think I'm going to call this, Nathan, the modern era is what we've got now.
Really, that's a great way to put it. Really great way to put it. And as we take a look back, some of the winners here in the C category, actually, Jay Holland, these are familiar names. I mean, this is starting to get to where we really have a good look at the who's who amongst the esports crowds. We did cover across all the categories. We even started to have in-game cams, I think, at this point, where we had individuals. There's Alice Lethbridge, speaking of Socks for Watts, in camera with us.
I recognized. To be honest, Nathan, Alice Lethbridge, who's still just Alice, is awesome. And she's still out there doing her thing. But look at the size of that field as well. I mean, compared to what we'll see in a few months. Is
Alice one of the announced riders for the Olympics? If I'm not,
she is.
Yeah,
we haven't even. In what are we talking about now? A little more than a week in Singapore.
We have the Olympic test event that's going to be going on, and Alice Lethbridge, who is a part of the broadcast here, 2021, is a part of this team championship from 2021. So really cool to see how this has progressed. And now she has taken that to this part of her career. Like, we can kind of bunny hop now to 2023 and see where things are at.
Yes, she and Vicky Whitelaw and Rachel Nealon are some of those riders that really deserve that OG status, I would say, without any doubt. Good luck, Alice, by the way. And I was just talking over the top of you, Nathan, sorry, but Tepa Lorio is going. James Barnes is going to this Olympic trial event. And we certainly are really, really excited with Jackie Godby, the American. So, and I saw a couple question marks on spaces as well. So I wonder who that will be. It's intriguing.
That is extremely intriguing. Well, let's go ahead and jump right down into the racing. They are starting their first lap of 3 laps. They have done the lead in 6.2 kilometers, and things are heating right on up. And whereas we talk about this, let's go ahead and see if we can jump across a few of the categories as well. I'm hoping, as we are featuring the women out here today, I'm hoping that we are able to find a few. We'll see if we can find if there is some jumping into the race out here today across the categories.
Snickers.
Oh,
Snickers is
good to
back.
see Snickers back. middle of the summer. I wonder if Snickers likes racing in the summer because he tends to show up, I think, in these summer months. I feel like in 2020 we saw a lot of Snickers.
We did.
Uh,
We did. One of the bizarre things about the climate around the world now is summertime racing. I mean, when it gets insanely hot, like if you lived in Arizona here in North America, Nathan, I could imagine in August racing would make more sense inside when it's 108 degrees outside. It's unraceable. I mean, through the middle of the summer, I don't know how some of the athletes do it, but we're taking a look now at a pretty active group, and it's nice to see a field of this size as well. Naofumi Nozaki is in this group, Nathan. I'm going to be looking for him coming in as one of our top ranked Swifters on the Australian Hump Day Ride team, the Japanese route. Kyle Marwood, another Australian. It makes sense that we'll see Australians and New Zealanders like Jack Polly of the Toyota Cryo team is out. But we've got John Vanner of the ESRT squad. This is a world-class rider when you talk about Vanner. He's proved it at the highest level, Nathan.
100%. Watch out for ESRT, actually. I think they've shown up in numbers out here today as we are looking at Virm. But Virm's not the only one. It's going to be Blomqvist. Make a watch on the right-hand side of your screen for more ESRT because Broberg is there. So they've shown up. Watch out for those. It's the pink and blue that we can see. There's at least 4 of them. I did see another one make his way toward the front. That's going to be Wallblack. So those are the 4 riders, I believe, all riding for ESRT. We're going to be having Blomqvist, Wallblack. We've got John Virm, and one more there that I just mentioned, but 4 riders, ESRT, all showing up here, and that's Broberg is going to be the 4th rider. Now, a little bit of a kick off the front here, and they are here to make waves, it looks like, Dave. They're not messing around. Flatter course, sometimes you think it's not going to be too heavy of a hitters, but they're throwing the 1-2 punch over and over again at the front as they just pushed at 5-6 watts per kilogram, trying to break things apart.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at that. We're sitting pretty close, over 6 watts per kilo right now. So this is a full gas. I mean, these guys are just blasting around here. The course doesn't offer much as far as altitude or I should say vertical gain, 75 meters over the course of these 3 laps. But when they're racing like this, Nathan, well, it backs off just a little bit right now. But you can feel those surges happening out there. This is no joke.
100%. And as we take a look here, there is a couple of sections on course that, as you saw them coming off the red mile there for a moment, and there was a left-hand turn going past, what's the name of the park there in just a moment, but I believe there's a little bit of park there that they do head on through, and then this left-hand turn heading toward Trafalgar Square. This is where there's 2 bumps that you can make a pretty good at attacking, but this lead into this section is where you can put people into threshold. You can put their into a little bit of struggle, put some hurt into the legs prior to this kick, because a lot of people, they're going to have a 30-second kick at this level. It's whether or not they're already in the hurt locker as to whether or not you're going to cause any snap when you do hit this section. Now you do see the PowerUps being thrown down. We've got Feather, we've got Draft, we've got Aero, and at the front here, who's taking it on? It looks like it's not going to be SRT, actually, Dave. At the front here, it's going to be McLean here from Cannondale.
Well, this is exactly how you do it. You take it to him, not sitting back on his heels. Now, I like what we're seeing here. Someone's going to come up and over the top now, Nathan. It might be Brink that we're looking at, one of the Swedish riders. They look pretty organized out here today. You make a really good point. The power-ups, let me quickly mention that we've got the Aero, Draft, and Feather available. You can see that Draft, the van icon there. It's significant, but at this point now, a little bit of a split happening at the front. They're certainly stirring the soup, Nathan, as they throw some heat on the front. But these guys, as you said, it's still, that's really the thing about racing at this level. All of these guys have talent and all of these guys have depth. Let's get that attack, though, as we do see one rider. Is that going to be the Greek rider? No, excuse me, it's McLean again, isn't it?
No, actually, let's see here. I'm going here. It's going to be Pereira. No, it's not Pereira. Kayan? Nope. Sorry about that. We're jumping all over the place here. We actually lost him for a second here. It's actually going to be Psychout here out of Norway. And that was a great counterattack. He had the Aero power up. Without the Aero power up alone, just alone on his watts per kilogram, he would not have gained nearly as much distance as he did. McLean here with a little bit of response, throwing 10 watts per kilogram actually for a moment, but that only put him on the front. It did speed up the pack, but at 50 kilometers per hour here, Psychop is absolutely flying. 460 watts right now. We do have somebody trying to come across here. I'm actually liking this team name. LMAO. Stalker here trying to close things down. It is going to be Lattice as well on the wheel, but McLean now going across at 9.
And this guy's a monster today, no question. Taking a look at the American McLean here. Nathan, this is interesting because I don't know that the strategy, this is just a throwdown. It looks like to me a brawl outside of school at the flagpole, is I don't think that these guys, I mean, if you look at it now, tactically here, your best bet's going to be sitting back in this group and letting these guys throw these haymakers and wear themselves out. But it's just attack after attack after attack. I mean, old school fury going on right now on this London Classique course. Welcome to OG racing. Nathan, this feels like throwback racing to me, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it really does. Let's see what these sprints do head up with here in just a moment. 11:31 was the time on through. Are they going to better those? I'm not sure they're going to actually better. 11:20 actually here coming from Smithy. So they're going pretty fast through this section. Now, they're not trying to get this sprint or anything, but it's definitely fast enough out here that it is setting some amazing times. Now, as this section, of course, was a little bit of a downhill. You can see it's a negative 1% gradient until they do hit the section of the finish line or lap banner there. There is a little bit of a bump in just a second here, and it flattens out. See that 1%? That, a lot of times you don't see riders using that section to its most advantage because they're not necessarily maybe aware, but this section of course right here, a lot of times because of the speed in the downhill, if you take that speed from the downhill, from the middle of the pack, and jump outside of the pack, you can gain massive amount of speeds in comparison to the slowdown of the pack. And that is a perfect section actually to try and cause some sort of a breakaway. It's actually the sections, of course, in my opinion, Dave, where people tend not to attack because it doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't feel like the section where you should. That tend to be the sections that might have a little bit of a secret in there where you can gain some advantage you didn't know about.
I think John Verm right now is trying to set up his teammates, Nathan. ESRT has come in with a real plan here, the Swedish squad, in the, what would you call that? Fuchsia and purple, I guess, would be pretty close, pretty clear. That's the rider on the front right now.
That's better than my estimation of what that color is. Nice job. I called it pink. That's definitely fuchsia. Good job.
Yeah, let's go with fuchsia. But so Verm, Nathan, in my mind, is trying to get a win today for one of his teammates out here, as you really are trying to sharpen the sword. And at this level, what a great way to do it. So what he's doing now is setting a trap. So he's the bait out front, I believe, but they're not going to play around with John Verm as it looks like it's cover and kill out there right now. We're not that far off from heading on to the final lap here on the London Classique course. So Verm's done some work there, just kind of sussing out, Nathan, the other riders who want to be active out here today as we take a look at the front group of about a dozen riders that are making the race right now.
Yeah, we do see McLean here covering and kill again. He is very motivated to make sure that nothing gets away out here today. So McLean, I think here, making sure everything stays together. But it's a one-man show up against the, I was wrong, I think there's 5 riders from ESRT. So obviously ESRT have shown up today specifically targeting this race as a team. Great to see the team tactics, and I absolutely love it when you have a situation like this. Now, it would have been nice to have maybe a couple other teams here able to work against them. I do see some Sunweb in here, though, Dave. At least 2 of them. So I have a feeling there may be some quieter.
Dragons.
Yeah, the Dragons here.
Mm-hmm. I like this team. Jacek Karluk is one of the riders that's got a tremendous amount of talent, and I would absolutely be watching out for him. He's a rider that suits this course well. He's at 80 kilo, Nathan. So that's someone. It's a good rouleurs course, no doubt about it. McLean has been one of the riders. Vannerm as well, and Blomqvist comes to mind as the riders that have been really making the race at this point. But I mean, Nathan, I feel like a broken record sometimes, but honestly, the riders that have been quietly sitting back in the envelope, back in that first third of this group that haven't been making the big efforts, they have to have a little more charge on their battery.
Yeah, we do see another attack here going off the front from ESRT. Is it going to stick? It is going to be Blomqvist again making this move. There are lapped riders ahead.
This might be it. We might be cracking the seal on the win right now, because here we go, up and over the top. Nathan, this is a big moment in this race now. It's only 22K of racing. The Swedes have been just throwing body blow after body blow out here, and at some point they're going to crack the code. This resilient group, though, is going to cover this one now as well. So there you go, resetting again here on the front. Wow, very, very. I mean, when's the last time we saw a race this active? There hasn't been a 15-second period in this race where there isn't a rider making a move.
Yeah, and it's a good move there by Baumklist to make sure that the speeds were high coming in and that people's legs were hurting. It almost snapped the elastic perhaps at the back end. Now, this is when the brakes will really happen, though, Dave.
Well,
This is
and
actually the section, of course, where somebody can go over the top and get away.
I think the hexagon signal has to go up at some point. You got two very talented riders in Berk Kayan and Khan Kayan here. And I have a feeling that they've been just holding back a little bit. And it's only going to be a matter of time until we see an absolute, well, actually, it looked like maybe a bit of a problem there as we go back to the front of the bike race. This is the Vanguard, the Tête de la Course, and Cycelt has been phenomenal out here as well. And here we go. A little bit of a move now, Nathan, that you got to pay attention to.
Yeah, Collins and Cyclops here working together. Collins getting in the draft. Stalker here looking to go across with him as well. Now a little bit of a draft power up here being thrown out by Cyclops. He's off the front, 7.4 watts per kilogram, 500 watts. And as you said, this is a Rouleurs course, and that's exactly what we're seeing here from the new region. We can see Zandarski here not liking what's happening at this point, really suffering, I have a feeling, as the pressure is on. Their heart rates are so incredibly high now. We're going to have one to go in just a moment.
Yeah, the Viking alert underway. When it's miserable, they like it even worse. They say if it's rain, make it hail, and I think that's what's happening right now at the front. It is absolute pandemonium here as we are out on the final lap on this London Classique course. OG racing in full effect, and this is all heart that we're looking at from the Norwegian Cycelt right now. Nathan, I don't know if this is going to be enough because there you go. The counter is coming in now. Here we go. It's going to be frenetic as look at this. The attack goes up and over the top. We've got a new leader here. Nathan, it is just frenetic out here right now.
Yeah, McLean again over the top. But again, this section, though, Dave, it's not always the best section. Now, if he sets this up so he gets these riders to chase him, and then he uses this draft that's extra speed into the section I was just speaking about, and then jumps again, maybe something's going to happen here. But really, this just ends up being a snowball effect on a 1% negative grading where it's so incredibly difficult to cause a split.
Yeah, I mean, attacking on a slight downhill is a fool's errand. You're like Don Quixote going after the windmills. There's so many riders that will use the advantage of the physics of the race. And here we go. I thought we might have been seeing a split, but this group just keeps fighting back. Nathan, it's going to be a reduced sprint, no question here. And you're wondering now, who are the riders that have got something in the tank? There's going to be one more attack, and certainly I'm expecting ESRT to be involved in that. They've been so active out here. Certainly the team of the race. They got numbers in this group, Nathan, and it looks like they've got a plan.
Yeah, and really what they need to do here at this point, Dave, is continually use the resources that they have. If they do not, nothing's going to be happening anytime soon. So right now, it's going to be all about attack after attack after attack. And there, you know who you haven't seen attack? Jean Verme. So Verme can sit in because he's got a monster sprint, while the rest of the team, they continue to do exactly this and just drive the pace, make others cover, and set up John for exactly what he does best, and that's kick in the last 200.
He's not only strong, Nathan, he's got a tremendous race IQ. The experience he has racing in the Zwift Grand Prix last season and many, many years of ZRL has him as one of the, I mean, it's really that combination of skill and experience that make him, and fitness, to tell you the truth. Look at Stalker going now. I believe that would be the Korean flag that we're looking at, rolling off of the front with Stalker, the rider here. Peloton still intact, however, and this is it. We're locked and loaded, Nathan. This is going to be a fantastic finale, down to about 4K of racing. It's going to be about 5 minutes until this one is paid out here. All of these guys realize it, and I'm with you. I mean, you got to think that John Verme's got one more attack in him. He did on the end of the first lap. I'd say I thought he was trying to set things up. His teammate Jonathan Blomqvist there. This is the Swedish-based squad. They've also got the mighty Matthias Valbeck in this group here. There's Valbeck sitting right there ready to pounce when needed. So certainly we've talked a lot about ESRT, and for a good reason, but you never know who's going to be the David against their Goliath.
One of the worst things, Dave, that I do not look forward to, if I'm trying to set up for a sprint or a break, like you can't do both, right? You can't necessarily go for a 2K to go, 1K to go, half a K to go situation to try and break things apart and sprint, right? You need to save for that. But one of the worst situations, if you're all in for the win and you just want to win, is what do you do in this final? Do you wait? Do you trust it completely, or do you try and make that move and go for it? And with the numbers that they have here, though, ESRT could continually try and take those risks, and that would just cause so much mayhem.
You can have your cake and eat it too, Nathan, right? And that's the situation. When you're a one rider, you have to commit. It's like being a riverboat gambler. If you're running the bluff, you've got to keep running the bluff all the way. You can't switch. You can't flip-flop. If you flip-flop, you're doomed. So you either commit to the field sprint or the breakaway, and that commitment happens right here, right now, as this is it, Nathan. We're going to very quickly come up on 2K to go, but you make an excellent point. This is the mental element of racing that's so critical, and this is one of the things that Zwift is so good at, is it gives you multiple bites at the apple of what it's like to try to win a bike race. No, it's not life or death out here, but yes, you can get better for when it is, and here we go. These are the gladiators of Zwift, Nathan, as we're heading into the final couple of K. Again, it's pouring down. Cats and dogs in London right now. I mean, Nathan, it's sheets of rain hitting our riders. Thank God it's virtual.
McLean now pushing 10 watts per kilogram as they head into this, and there's the feather power up. There's no Aero for this rider. This is why he's using the feather here, Dave. On a downhill, it's not going to matter that much, so he has to use it here. The reality is those. It's good, but here, oh my goodness, look at this rider here. Who is going off the front? Birkinshaw flying off the front here. He's got a good little gap. He's going to be able to be covered, though. It is going to be, it looks like, McLean able to hold on.
At least he played his cards, Nathan. You know, this race is going to blow to bits at this point. Even though that might not be the winning move, that was a rider who showed a lot of heart. And now coming over the top, this is it. It's every man for himself out here. They're just throwing body blow after body blow, and Psychelp is back, Nathan. Psychelp is back, but look at this. There's going to be a big, big problem as they rapidly come up on 1K to go right now, sitting second wheel.
Yeah, and it does look like
useless
on Cyclops wheel it is going to be. It's not going to do anything for him. Really using that draft.
You have to be drafting to get a benefit, but I guess you just get rid of it. What are you going to do?
I mean, if they catch him, that would have been so incredibly useful. Exactly.
Yeah, should have saved it 100%. So, and I'm not sure he needs to get Zwift play.
Yes, needs some Zwift play so that he can easily hit the Y button on his plays and be able to use his power up without accidentally hitting it here. But now as it does come all together, 1K to go. Who are we watching here? None other than, I think, John Verm. Out of anybody that you'd expect.
Yeah, well, we're on the same page, Nathan. We've seen this guy just dominate so many times. I don't know what his fitness is like as we're sitting right now in, early June in Sweden, but I'm going to anticipate that John Verm is always going to be there or thereabouts as far as fitness goes. This group's going to have a chance to sprint, though, Nathan.
Is this positioning going to be right for Verm? There's a little bit off the front here. Wright's making a move here at 9 watts per kilogram. He's 170 beats per minute here, 462, 6.8 watts per kilogram. The ramp up is there. Is the power up's going to be too much? One of his teammates is actually going off the front here. I'm not sure Verm's got it here today. I'm focusing in on him, but we have to move forward, I have a feeling, because Verm, no move from him. Where is the sprint? It actually looks like it's going to be his teammate Brink. No, it's actually going to be Sunderland. Karluk from the Dragons just walks away from this one.
Wow.
Where's John Verm? The Dragons sit in. Sunweb, take it out here.
So, Nathan, I had said earlier in the race that the guys that sit quietly back in that group and let the fireworks go off for the first, 2.95 laps, and that was Jacek Karluk just racing with intelligence. And, it's okay out here, right? As I said, it's not life or death out here today, but he showed the patience. He committed to his plan and won. Well done. Well done, Dragons.
Seriously, well played. They waited, and played it really well. Great to see from the Dragons.
Like the Dutch do.
They do.
That's so Dutch, it's not even funny, to tell you the truth.
Oh, man.
As far as racing IQ goes, Nathan, there's no nation on the planet, I think, that knows more about winning bike races than the Netherlanders.
Yeah, it's a good point. There's I'm going to see if we can jump across here real quick. This is something that we are trying to focus in on, especially with the OG Racing series. to try and get a little bit of coverage across some of the other categories. We'll see if we do have a few of the other ones out here. So it can be a little bit difficult, though, at times for us to find some of the other categories, and we are waiting for results to come on in. But it's great to see. One thing I noticed is this 1 p.m. Time slot. Really great to see the way that it seemed to attract such a large group of for the middle. I mean, large group for the middle of the summer in the Northern Hemisphere, and having some top esports teams showing up. I mean, ESTRT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 showed up. Dragons with 3. Hexagon with 3. I mean, this is a top level race actually, with a few esports teams showing up and throwing down.
Take a look at the global representation too. Even though it's actually not bad at all, but not the largest field we've ever seen. But I would say we touch on every corner of the globe, to use that antiquated expression. But I mean, we had plenty of Southern Hemisphere riders out here today as well. Japan, well represented. New Zealand, Australia, of course. But yeah, interesting. And Sweden, half of Sweden was racing today.
Sweet. I need some candies from Sweden. If
we need to reconnect.
Connect with the candies coming out of Sweden. So, real quickly, a shout out to the riders that are showing up though out here today. Really, really appreciate it. We also wanted the coalition as far as the teams that are showing up. We saw Polymer and Gernat representing them as well. I did see also Wahoo Lacole with Jacob Larson and Pedro Bastos. So some of the newer names, though, and even teams that I'm not necessarily recognizing. I think Charles McCarthy even signed up for this race. I'm not sure he showed. Yeah, great to see that. I
didn't see him racing. But he's been awesome, too, Charles McCarthy, the American. Did want to shout out, I saw Stefan Kirkmeyer taking the European Fondo Championship down in Italy this weekend as well.
That guy is on fire with the Fondos. Seriously.
And you got to say, good for him for being able to back it up out there on the real roads. That's impressive, Stefan. It really is. We have so many friends that are crushing it right now in real life racing that are with us in Zwift and will be back with us in Zwift. There's one thing I have really learned. We talked about this last week, Nathan, but Zwift is exceptionally good for motivation, community, and if you race outside, it's a great way to keep your knife sharp.
Oh, seriously. There are some things I do need to do in order to get those final little, I go into in real life racing, and there is that last month where I probably should have done an A. If I want an A to B level race, I should have done a couple of C warm-ups into real life. But besides that, seriously, I bring the best fitness I've ever had in my life, fitness-wise, across the board. There's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it. So,
Whitney Post mentioned that when she won her category at Belgian Waffle Ride this weekend.
Did she really?
Nice.
She actually mentioned that. That's great.
Yeah, and her entire family comes out to support her as well. I'm a big fan. Nice to see Michael Sweet as well out there racing. Although Michael has more mechanicals per mile than anyone. That guy is tough on his bikes. So I'd like to see a Zwift steed, to tell you the truth.
I can relate.
So I heard, the way, since we have a second, Nathan, now, because I saw it on social media today, I think the embargo has been lifted. How are you enjoying, and Gabby enjoying your Zwift plays?
Oh, well, you just happened to mention the Zwift plays.
It's okay to talk about it, right?
Yeah, it's totally fine. Totally fine. Now, 10 a.m. Central Time. The embargo's lifted, and Zwift Play, I got a box of them here. They're on my
So it's like
bike,
an Xbox controller. It's like an Xbox controller you attach onto your hoods of your brake levers, right? And
exactly.
Game changer.
It's a huge game changer. We had a great time playing Repack Rush. So some people were a little confused and thought Repack Rush was launched at the same exact time as the plays were this morning. The Repack Rush actually came with the last update of 1.42, but the plays and the release of them and their sale of them just released today at 10 a.m. Central Time, USA. So, yeah, we had a great time playing Repack Rush. Me and Gabby raced each other, actually, with the steering and going after all the little power-ups and stuff, and kind of a Mario Kart-esque little game out in that section. But then we also showed some fun stuff that you can do with them. The main takeaway, though, because it's not all about steering. Steering is one aspect. It's not all about can you race with them. That's one aspect. It's not all about can you do workouts with them.
Power
It's one
ups.
aspect. It's like, yeah, power ups. You can do that. Ride ons. You can do that. You can
It's got
change your
so
workout
many
stuff.
features.
So it's a new
It's
way to
incredible.
interact with the game. That's the idea, is to really focus in on, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's a steering device, or oh, it does this, or it does that. You can do everything you need to interact with Zwift from your handlebars. That's the point of the
Huge.
Zwift plays. Absolutely.
Because I'll admit, I think everyone felt like it was a little cumbersome to have to, you're sweaty and there's a lot going on, and it really, really just streamlines your experience. And that's, again, these are quantum leaps that we're seeing from our friends at Zwift. So I'm really proud of everybody involved in that. It helps us all in this ecosystem, making the experience better for the users.
Yeah, and I believe
The
if you do want to check
community.
them out, just head on over to Zwift.com slash, I think it's, let me see here. I think it's play. Let me double check that though. But you can find them over on Zwift's website for sale at this moment, actually. Um, yep, that's it. It is going to be Zwift.com slash play. Head on over there and you'll be able to check those out. I think they're selling like hotcakes, actually. I was
I
actually
bet you they
wondering if they
sell
were.
out right
I was wondering
away.
if they
Yeah.
were gonna like go, and all of a sudden, like my WhatsApp groups, like one of my WhatsApp groups, like literally was like, "Hey, boom, 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 boom!" Like one dude was like showing us his receipt. I was like, "Oh my god, okay, these are actually people are really interested in these, which is pretty cool." So, great to see, and I think this is something a lot of people see. I had trouble relating up front because I've always just used a keyboard and mouse while I was Zwifting because my setup I was already doing that before Zwift was even a thing. I was already using keyboard and mouse to play video games while I was riding my bike because I was a pro cyclist in
You're a
Wisconsin.
terrible test market because you were already transcending this technology long ago. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
the last guy.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would be a
yeah,
better
yeah.
test market
So
than
then
you
I'm
on this
like,
one.
they're like,
Right? Yeah.
no, Nathan, most people, their Zwift setup, they're really far away from their screen and they have to get off and mess with something or set a table up next to them and it's all a big hassle. Where this, you just attach it to your bars. And you know what, though? I stopped reaching for my mouse. Like, Gabby had to keep reminding me actually while we were playing this morning. And I
You
was
would be
reaching and
reaching.
she was like, Nathan,
Yeah.
this is a no mouse ride. And I was like, okay, it's a no mouse ride. Okay, okay. And then as I got used to it, I was like, oh, like this is kind of, and actually I felt like I was playing like Xbox. I was like doing all
Right.
this stuff. So,
You have to rewire your neurosynapses a little bit, but it doesn't take long for a healthy brain to realize there's a simpler, easier way. And I mean, it really is about half a
it took
ride,
me a little
I
while. I
think,
don't know.
until
Is my brain healthy? I think my brain's pretty healthy.
you are so hardwired after 7 years of doing it the other way that
Yeah,
it's
yeah, it's true.
understandable. It
Very
would be
true.
like asking you to go from a left-hand drive car to a right-hand car. It would take a minute. So, at any rate, it's super, super exciting to see these developments. That's for sure.
I'm gonna check Zwift
We're
Power here
still
real quickly, just because not for results. I wanted to check just to see if we had much women's participation out here because the point today was to highlight women. It does look like we do have maybe a few women
a
jumping
while.
into the C category, but I'm
I
not
can
sure.
highlight a Zwift woman while you're looking
Yeah, sure,
because
go for it.
another cool thing that happened this last week, Kristen Kolchinsky is not only riding outside, but she's taken some monster QOMs.
I don't
I
know that
noticed that
climb. I've noticed. So, what is that climb that she
block.
did?
It's not that massive of a QOM, but the woman that she took it from is Emma Langley. If you look at that top 10 on any Strava, right? And Emma Langley is the reigning U.S. women's road champion. So
Oh my goodness.
I think Emma did it back in 2020, if I remember. It shows the date of when that ride occurred as well. But for our friend Kristen Kolchinsky to do that, it's really a big leap of faith for her because she was exclusively racing inside, and I really felt like there was a lot of like I don't know. It's an interesting world that we live in where people are like, well, if you can do it inside, go do it outside. And it's her life. She gets to choose when and where she wants to ride and what challenges she wants to take on. And I think that's going to be maybe the best message for this whole thing is what Zwift has done to help empower women. And so it's Kristen's world. She's the one that gets to make these decisions. But she finally, I think maybe, I'm going to guess there was a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out, watching all of her teammates on that 2024 team just crushing it all over the place. And she races with them in esports, right? So she knows how strong she is compared to them. And she sees Marlise Mejias winning. And I think she just said, you know what? I'm going to get outside and give it a crack. And then she gets a really cool QOM, which is just a little more wind in her sails. And I think that maybe KK would be better off, Nathan, doing the time trials to start with, at least, versus, pack racing, that dynamic. It's scary. It is. It's tough. And you can build up to that, but time trials are a great way to get your feet wet. Actually,
jump.
For some people.
It's a really, really big jump,
huge.
Actually, getting into the packs.
I'm proud of her.
And I think what we saw, though, with the taking on the hill climbs, great way to start. Obviously, Josh Lipka helping out a ton. The coach over at 2024, yeah, and one of her best friends. So really great to see there. And I think you're right. I 100% agree that the rest of my team is outside riding. I'm going to participate some way, and I think that's what was going on there. And obviously, whenever Kristen shows up and goes uphill, usually she wins. So
she's the only person, Nathan, that I've ever met who gets to the top of the climb, gets in a car, and takes a drive down.
Yeah.
That's our Kristen, right?
Yep.
It's what makes it different that makes this world interesting for sure. I'm the type of person, though, that would take the drive up and then descend down.
And then descend it down. Are you a good descender, Dave? Are you a good descender?
Okay. And back in the day, I was all right.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I wasn't that big. After a couple crashes, it kind of slows your roll a little bit. Here in the Rockies, it's not that hard. Yeah. So I guess you know what, I'm going to take that statement back. At 17, I was an aggressive descender. By 20, I had really backed off.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought I was a good descender, and I am a great on the mountain bike. But the moment that we hit the mountains on the road bike, those speeds, man, those.
And you know what it is? It's that first time that you realize you're on an off-camber, decreasing radius turn, and you're not going to make it. And your options are: do I dump the bike here? Because in those kind of things, you realize, man, this is a very, very high level of skill required.
Yeah, and high risk.
Do this.
High risk.
High risk for sure.
Yeah. We do have all of our results in, and we are going to go through all of them specifically.
Great.
For the awesomeness of everybody who is participating out here today. We really want to give a thanks to all the participants, and great job to all of them. As they do cool down, we can go ahead and use some Zwift scenes to put this over the top of, and it does look like, we'll start with our D category, actually. It's going to be, Dave, take it away, Gary Price.
Thanks, Nathan. Last week, for some reason, I started at the bottom and worked our way up to the top, which is what I do at Belgian Waffle Ride podiums, but I'm going to do it correctly. And it is Gary Price with the Golden Cup next to him, the coalition rider taking the win. This is our D category that we're talking about. You can see he was really smart today, Nathan. He's got the lowest watts per kilogram, but was the first over the line. So, Gary Price, you played all your cards right. Good job. Nikolai Christensen taking the silver medal. And then George Williams, good for bronze today. Robin B., well done for fourth. Neil Jacobson in for fifth. Or Jacobson, actually. Neil, you let me know and I'll get it right. Andreas Pebos is in for sixth. It's Paul Ringholm in for seventh. Eighth place going to Patrick Borch. Alan Suyat of the TZP team taking ninth. And then Dave Stauffer rounding out our top 10. Good job,
over to the C category. It looks like it's going to be Tiago Viana with 2.8 watts per kilogram. And you are seeing a trend there, aren't we, Dave? The sprinters out there today reserving the energy. The only one lower is going to be Stefan Versick there for the 2.7. So nice job to Tiago. They're playing it smart. It's going to be John B. It's for second place, Frank Schuck in eighth. Martin Marinov in fourth place. Alessio Nicini in fifth. It's going to be Nuno Pixoto in sixth place. Stefan Versick in seventh with that 2.7 watts per kilogram. Andres Zabo in eighth place. Matt Edwards in ninth. And Aaron Gunkel That's going to be rounding out our top 10 in the C category today for stage 2 of the Zwift OG Racing on London Classic.
Nathan, I
That's
had a
a
moment while
familiar
you were doing
name. Look at that name at the top. Okay, go ahead. But I just had to
Well,
mention Ned Bowen. Wow, talk about being around for a long time. Loving to see it.
I'm having one of those moments right now. I'm literally as stoked as a person could be. Every single day I listen to the Lantern Rouge podcast. Nathan, I love Benji. Benji Nason commented on our broadcast. I feel like I've arrived. I truly do. That's
I
the
was
coolest
watching
thing.
Benji. I was watching Benji's
He's the
VO2 Max
best, man.
effort yesterday. I watched his VO2 Max test effort yesterday. Benji, shout out, man. You did an amazing job. That was
Job,
I
dude.
love his
Yeah.
his content happening right now, and his journey in cycling is so cool to watch. And I did watch him. I did watch Lantern Rouge recently on some of the. They did a review of the new Netflix on the Tour de France.
Oh,
Unchained.
I was
Yeah,
just listening to that literally before we started our broadcast.
yeah, it's a good review.
What I would do every day during the Giro, they do a recap, and they're incredibly intelligent. They've got great senses of humor, and they're just enjoyable people. And it's my favorite podcast now, without a doubt. But let me give Ned Bowen a shout out, Nathan. This was, again, you could see with the 3.6 watts per kilo. That's the kind of ride Benji would be all about, because it shows he used his brains and his effort at the right time in the right place to take the win. Very close sprint here. Looking at our Bs now. So it was Mr. Axt, B. Axt of the Dragons. They had a great day today. He'll take the silver medal. And then your bronze standard is Colin B., racing for the Dads Indoors Riding Trainers team. Adam O'Loughlin for Coalition in fourth, Liam Stevenson in fifth, Boria Pardo taking sixth, Jesper Linden seventh today, Takumi. And then let me get this right for you, Takumi. Takumi Itsusaki of the Jet team in eighth, Rolf Trovato, Watt Fabric Rider in ninth, and then Ronnie Stroibig of the Street TTT Tempo team, rounding out our top 10. I'm starting to talk like a Belgian. Well done, guys.
Great to see some of the familiar teams out there. Draft, Dragons, Dirt, Coalition, OUT as well. Linden there. Great to see. These are really familiar. Great to see their continuance throughout the summer months and hammering away, getting their workouts and getting some points there out on Zwift. All right. Wow. This was our A's and the coverage that we did have out there today. It is going to be Justin Karlik there from the Dragons taking it down with a 4.6 watts per kilogram. He sat in that Sudwed quit the whole time, and we were seeing something definitely familiar there. It is going to be Reinus Verhel coming on through for second. Now, I did notice that Stalker did not have a heart rate monitor, so he will. These are provisional results. He most likely will be removed from the results at 6.3 watts per kilogram as well. Whew. There's maybe some of the commentators there from Zwift might be coming in and saying, well, sorry, no heart rate monitor, and you're not going to be able to keep that result, but provisionally he is in third. That is going to move probably fourth up to third, etc., all the way down. So just as a heads up there. If you are participating in the OG series, Zwift does require for you to be a part of the official results. After everything is said and done, they do go through them. A heart rate monitor is required, and sometimes they do checks even on some of the setups. So Martin Sutherland there coming on through, though, for fourth in the provisional. Orjan Brink there from ESRT, and ESRT, Orjan, and then John Verm. Mads Buster there for seventh. It's going to be the man who was super aggressive alongside of Sean McLean, who's not actually in the top 10, probably because of that aggression. It is going to be Cyclept there. Don Vesio there from Cryogen in ninth, and To Miguel from the PTZ team in 10th place.
What was McLean's watts per kilo? Because I have a feeling he was working out today, without any doubt. And that makes a lot of sense to me at this time of the year, to go out, get some big efforts in, have some fun with racing on Zwift. But it's not life or death. And
Kyle Marwood, too.
Like
Kyle Marwood's a strong rider, and we don't see him in the top 10 either. And I have a feeling you're right. Since Standersky, Kayan, there's some big names here.
And I have a feeling that John Verm today was racing with this team and maybe doing some racing coaching, if that makes sense, trying to help the other guys find another level. It makes sense to me. And that's really what this sport is all about. It's not every time that you line up that you have to be racing to win. Sometimes you can be racing to help other people grow. Sometimes you can be growing yourself. And sometimes it's just, it's part of being in a community. without any doubt. So, Nathan, another fun day out here, London Classique. It's right after the Richmond World, London came into play, and it's certainly been one of our all-time most popular worlds, and you can see why.
100%. Now, next week, we are going to be into race number 3 with the OG Classic. So be on the watch out for that. The broadcast is scheduled already. Now, this one is a barn burner. One of the first courses that we really got into, the GCN race was on here. We are focusing on this, though, because I believe this is an SZR that we are highlighting here, if I'm not mistaken. So this is what we're going to be broadcasting next week, same time, same place. This is going to be the Aero, the Anvil, and the Steamroller. But you can do it all week next week from the 19th through the 25th. But you still have the opportunity to do this London Classic as well. So go ahead and jump into the OG Racing Series. Now, also tomorrow, we do have the wrap, obviously. Myself and Anna will be live tomorrow with the wrap. And we do have a special guest. It is going to be Christopher Schwanker tomorrow on the wrap, so make sure to go ahead and jump in. We'll be talking all about everything that's been blowing up this week. I mean, we've got the Olympics announcements. We've got the chatter that's been going on with the Zwift plays. I mean, there's a ton. Then we've got the Indy Velo thing, and he had obviously strong opinions about that. So I have a feeling tomorrow is going to be a very lively discussion amongst friends, because we're all really good friends. But we may have some differing opinions about things, or at least different excitements in different areas. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one tomorrow.
I'm on your team.
I'm on your team. I'm on your team. Is that just how it goes? Like, or like, do you know? That's really funny. That's like a trust statement. I'm not sure. Like, there's no details. There was just like, I trust Nathan.
I believe in you.
Right on.
That's what a team leader. You need to hear positive feedback, positive reinforcement. It goes a long way.
It really does. Well, I really appreciate everybody tuning into the OG series. We'll be keeping going. Hey, it's just ramping up, everybody. You know, a lot of times during the summer months, this is the testing time. A lot of new releases come on out, and this is when a lot of features are looking forward to August and September, and we'll be looking forward to Zwift Racing League, etc. We're going to have a lot going on in July as well, though, and then also the Zwift Women's Racing Series. That's going to be happening on Tuesdays. That's going to start broadcasting in a couple weeks. So everybody, make sure you hit those follow buttons, subscribe, comment, like, and all that. Get your notifications going, because ZCL is ramping back up into the rest of the summer and the fall. For me and Dave Toldo, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow on the wrap and next week for OG Racing Series week number 3. As always, everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in, and ride on.
Great job, Nathan.